Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the Caribbean. It is Sunday evening, June 4, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share, subscribe and tap the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know that there's been liking your ear recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. I respond to all comments and I really live for this stuff. Alright, so taking a look at the U.S. National Hurricane Center's 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook, we can see that as of 2 p.m. today, there is nothing new that's expected during the next several days across the Atlantic. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, we can still see that the southern portions of the main development region is still dotted by multiple tropical waves. We can still see that high pressure that's being squashed to the south, so it's affecting, well, the dome is situated across the northern section of the main development region, all courtesy of the multiple troughs of low pressure that are squashing down this high pressure ridge, because we usually have the high pressure ridge closer up to the Bermuda or the Azores area. That's where we usually have the dome of the high pressure, but right now it's being squashed and it's causing all of the easterly trade winds to push across the southern portion of the main development region and then curving across the eastern Caribbean, which is why we're getting more of a southeasterly kind of southerly flow across majority of the Caribbean these days, as opposed to the easterly flow that's what we're normally used to. Taking a look at the visible satellite images before the sun went down, we can see the clouds associated with those tropical waves stretching all the way from Africa all the way into sections of northern South America. We can also see the clouds that were associated with tropical storm Arlene right there, pushing away off towards the east. They were affecting portions of the Bahamas today, and they can also be seen affecting portions of the Turks and Caicos as well later on tonight. Majority of the Caribbean is in the clear right now, from the eastern Caribbean all the way over into the central and western Caribbean, apart from some isolated clouds and thunder showers right there to the waters west of Jamaica as well as portions of Cuba. Let's focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today. It was stated that we would have received some rainfall last night into early this morning, especially across southern Jamaica, then maybe even spilling into sections of some northern parishes during the afternoon. And what ended up happening? As early as 6:30 a.m., we had Doppler radar images showing some amount of rainfall, even although we had a commenter asking about the greens that we see and the yellows across the land. The majority of that is ground clutter. That's feedback from the Cuban Doppler radar images. Hopefully we get our Jamaican Doppler radar back up and running. It's been down for quite some time now. But we can know the rainfall different, especially when we see it moving, especially across the sea. We don't have much ground clutter across the sea, but we know that when we see the greens and the yellows right there, especially along the coast, especially on the south coast, we know that it's some rainfall. And we did have some amount of rainfall right there across sections of St. Elizabeth, Manchester, sections of St. Andrew and St. Thomas this morning. And we even had confirmation from one of our commenters, Denville Douglas, stating the desert not deserting today at all. Heavy rain yesterday and more light showers this morning. Hellshire looking very green right now. And we even had the confirmation from our stream over at See Jamaica's YouTube channel. If you don't know by now, we have a partnership with this YouTube channel. You're free to go and check out their live streams on YouTube, where they actually stream halfway trees area and the surrounding areas, Crossroad, as well as the harbor right there along Kingston. And at around the same time when that post was made, this is 6:28 a.m. and we just posted the 6:30 a.m. Doppler radar images. We could see some rain right there out in the horizon, so maybe affecting sections of Harbor View, Bull Bay as well. Not so much across Kingston, but maybe even portions of the hills of eastern Kingston might have gotten in on some amount of rainfall this morning. And we even had confirmation on our Instagram page from someone who lives in Bull Bay, Catherine M. Rodriguez, stating we had a heavy downpour in Bull Bay just now. And Gione stating lot of thunder where I'm at in Stony Hill. And then later on in the day, Another post was made at 1:01 p.m. highlighting the fact that we've been receiving that very southerly flow across the island, but it was more bringing some partly cloudy conditions across the area, and the heat was very strong, especially considering the fact that the winds weren't strong coming in from the south. And we've had commenters confirming the heat. Sapphire Willie stating Moby hot bad. Scorpio Chick then stating hot very jeez. Then Wendy approved stating bad rain gone too quick brother. Divine Empress stating clothes can dry. And if we actually take a look at the visible satellite images right now, we can see that from early today we still had that southerly flow of wind and clouds across the island, and then maybe we might have had some amount of buildup of clouds, bring some isolated showers to sections of maybe eastern Trelawney, western St. Anne. Might have had some clouds across eastern Clarendon, northeastern Clarendon, as well as sections of southern St. Elizabeth and Manchester might have gotten in on some amount of rainfall. And considering that we didn't have much in the way of thunderstorm or convection, we don't see much of anything happening on the infrared satellite images. So now we see the difference. We see that on the visible satellite images, we're able to see the clouds much better. While on the infrared, we don't see much of anything, but we will know that we'll be seeing the high cold cloud tops, not to mention the sparkling white dots that indicate lightning flashes and lightning strikes. Taking a look at the Doppler radar images right now, we can see the confirmation of that rain that's represented by the green and the yellow within that came right there onshore in sections of southern St. Elizabeth, maybe sections of Manchester as well, to confirm what we just saw on the visible satellite images. Taking a look at the live cam of halfway through, didn't have much of anything across Jamaica for today. Don't see anybody walking with umbrella, don't see any wet ground or any windshield wipers moving along. It was a mostly sunny day across the corporate area. Taking a look at the temperatures for tonight, we can see that we have 27 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston, and as usual as the night progresses, these temperatures should be getting lower with the winds coming in from the south. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we can still see that we have majority of the Caribbean embedded in some above normal temperatures, anywhere from 1 to at least 3 degrees Celsius above average is what is expected across Jamaica for 1 p.m. on Monday, and we see that on both the Euro and the GFS models. Taking a look at the average temperatures for the month of June in Jamaica, we usually receive up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures, and considering that we should be receiving up to 3 degrees Celsius above average tomorrow, and 90 degrees Celsius is about the equivalent of 33 degrees Celsius, we should be receiving anywhere from, let's say, 33 to 36 degrees Celsius at most. Taking a look at the dry air map, we can see that we have a lot of dry air stretching all the way from Africa into portions of the Eastern Caribbean. Much of that is associated with the Sahara Desert and the dust that it brings. However, we see some slight dry air across portions of the Central and Western Caribbean into section of Jamaica as well. As relates to the Saharan dust, however, we don't see much of the Saharan dust across Jamaica or the Western Caribbean. Majority of the Saharan dust is stretching all the way from Africa across the main development region into the Eastern Caribbean for 2 p.m. on Monday. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see that 12 p.m. by both the Euro and the GFS for Monday has Jamaica still surrounded by the 1 meter wave heights at most, and that's due to the fact that we're still receiving weak winds averaging anywhere from 5 to 10 knots coming in from the south across the island. But where does all of that air pile up? Where do we have the least amount of winds across the island, as indicated by the blues that represent some amount of maybe buildup of clouds, daytime heating, bring about some amount of afternoon convection. We see the darkest blues right there across sections of northern parishes in Jamaica. So once you have those clouds coming in, those cumulus clouds coming in from the south, then in the afternoon they become cumulonimbus clouds, especially across inland areas and northern parishes in Jamaica. And that's exactly what's going to take shape, some amount of afternoon convection across northern parishes. And we see the consensus on both the Euro and the GFS models, and that when we have consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. And with the upper level support, with the upper level wind shear, the upper level winds still coming in from the southwest, it just confirms that the north coast will be getting majority of the weather for tomorrow, especially during the afternoon. And we have confirmation on the precipitation forecast. We see some blues that represent rainfall on both the Euro and the GFS models. What time is this? This is 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 3 p.m. Jamaica time. And we see that rainfall may be across sections of St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. We even see some blues on the GFS model, even although it's not showing on the Euro model. See some blues that represent rainfall right there across maybe eastern St. Andrew as well as portions of St. Thomas. So we shall see exactly what unfolds at 3 p.m. on Monday. Either way, we have consensus in that we'll be receiving some amount of rainfall as seen on both maps. And we also see some amount of consensus with the total accumulated precipitation for Monday from now up until 10 p.m. on Monday, that is. We see the rainfall across eastern, central, and western Jamaica on the Euro. The GFS showing more of the rainfall across sections of northern Jamaica, just like what we saw on the 1 hour rainfall total forecast. So rainfall is definitely in the forecast for Jamaica for tomorrow, especially in northern parishes that is. So those persons who reside up on that side, get yourselves ready, especially for some afternoon rainfall. And we're indeed grateful that we're getting some amount of rainfall in the month of June. We're still in our secondary rainy season, considering that it is June and our dry season comes back in July. So we're still getting in on some more of the rainfall that May brings, because remember our May rains came late. We shall receive up to 133 millimeters of rainfall during this month. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let's focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So we can see a lot of clouds bringing some rainfall to sections of Florida, the Bahamas, portions of Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, sections of Guatemala getting in on some amount of rainfall as well. We can also see some clouds bringing rainfall to sections of southern Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guyana as usual. Taking a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean for today, we didn't have much of anything going on. We can see that from about 1 p.m. today, the Doppler radar images were showing little to no activity across those areas. Taking a look at the Barbados radar, much of the same happening. Don't have much of anything. We just have a few passing light showers maybe to the north and the west of Barbados. Taking a look at a wider view of Doppler radar images now, we can see that rainfall that we mentioned earlier to the west of Jamaica on the Cayman Doppler radar images. Not to mention the rainfall across portions of the Bahamas, Cuba, and Florida as well. You can also see that rainfall that we just mentioned across sections of Guatemala, Honduras, sections of Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guyana as well. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see the weakest or the lowest waves from the central to the western Caribbean, even into sections of the Gulf of Mexico. Much of the same, like what we've been receiving all of last week, anywhere from 0 to 0.5 of a meter wave height, while the central to the eastern Caribbean should be receiving 1 to 1.5 meter wave heights. Look right there, we see some purple, some reds in there as well that represent 2 meter wave heights or more right there off the east coast of Florida. And we see the same on the GFS models. Why is that? Because we have the strongest winds as indicated by the yellows that represent 25 to 30 knots right there off the east coast of the United States, while we have anywhere from, let's say, 10 to 15 knots across majority of the eastern Caribbean coming in from the southeast. And we can see those winds curving around that ridge of high pressure that's right there situated across the northern section of the main development region. While the central and western Caribbean should be receiving some weak winds, especially across Jamaica coming in from the south for tomorrow, averaging anywhere from 5 to 10 knots. Taking a look at the rain forecast for tomorrow, these maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Monday. And we can see consensus right there. We see rainfall predicted for sections of Florida, the Bahamas, sections of the Turks and Caicos, maybe sections of eastern Cuba, sections of the northern portions or the border of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, especially on the northern side. We can see some rainfall predicted. Again, maybe some slight rainfall for sections of southern Puerto Rico. We can also see that majority of the eastern Caribbean, all the way from the leeward all the way down into portions of St. Lucia, should be receiving little to no rainfall at all for the next 24 hours. We see the rainfall right there across sections of Trinidad and Tobago, maybe sections of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada. Maybe Barbados getting in on some rainfall, as we can see on the Euro, not so much on the GFS. We can see some rainfall as well across sections of Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana. As usual, Venezuela getting up to 1 inch or more. Colombia, look at those purples that represent 3 inches or more rainfall across sections of Panama on the GFS. Euro not so robust, but we still see the consensus of the rainfall across those spots. Not to mention sections of the Pacific side of Nicaragua, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, as well as sections of the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico. And we can also see some rainfall right there, maybe possibly in store for parts of Belize. We see that more on the Euro model than the GFS model. The GFS is a bit more, lenient to the rainfall. More of the rainfall is dotting the coast right there of Guatemala, as well as the northern sections of Belize. So we shall see exactly what unfolds with that. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for